My big goal with my horse Diesel is to make him the ultimate horse. The horse that can do anything, be anything, who is super well trained, super well behaved, and is just that ultimate package of an all-around horse that anyone would love to have. As part of my journey to getting Diesel to that point, I have started reading horse books constantly. And one of the books that I'm reading right now is Building Your Dream Horse by Charles Wilhelm. And at the very beginning of that book, he lists out some golden rules for working and training your horse that I wanted to go through today because I think they are very helpful for anyone who is working with or training their own horse. The first one is boring, but it is important, so we'll quickly go through it, and it is safety first. And when he says that, he means it for both horse and rider. Safety is super critical. I think a lot of amateurs and beginners are oftentimes unknowingly putting either themselves or their horse or both of them at risk of injury or something happening. Safety is very, very important when you're dealing with a 1,200 pound prey animal. They react at a split second in irrational ways that can cause, people can die, right? So that is, of course, very, very important. I try to be as safe as I can with my horses, but again, with a prey animal, things are going to happen, but just it's a good reminder to be on your toes. Do not get complacent with these animals. His next golden rule is that everything you do with your horse, everything is a training opportunity. And I think this is something that I'm guilty of sleeping on quite often. I can get very much of just in a rut, going through the motions, doing the same thing with my horse every day, and not being very intentional about what I'm doing with my horse all of the time. And I think I miss a lot of opportunities to do things with my horse that can further his education as a horse. And that's something that I really want to focus on this year, is just being more intentional with the work that I'm doing with my horse and not just running through the exact same motions every single day. Not only is that super, super boring for both me and my horse, but it's just wasted time, wasted energy. We aren't making any progress. And so viewing every single moment that I'm spending with my horse as a training opportunity will be really important. It's a huge change in perspective that I need to make. His next golden rule was to end a training session only when you have seen significant improvement. And I want to just read out the details that he put with this one, because this one is this one's going to be big for me. So he says, this is not the same as the old adage, end on a good note. Ending on a good note is not enough. You need to have higher expectations than that for both yourself and your horse. The time to end a training session is only when you have achieved notable progress. When I read that, I was like, I really need to step up my game. I literally should be printing that out and hanging it up in my barn as a constant reminder. Growing up, I was definitely taught the adage, always end on a good note. So, even if you were struggling with your horse during a ride, just find something good to end on. Maybe just work on something that you and your horse are good at, just so you can end on a positive note. And then that actually transformed for me. A couple years ago, I went to a clinic, and the clinician there actually said, you don't need to end on a good note. If you're having a really crappy time with your horse, just end it. I don't think I agree with that even to this day. I just don't want to leave a sour taste in my horse's mouth, if that makes sense. I want to end on a good note. And I don't know if that's just from years of conditioning, but that's just how I feel. But then you have Charles coming in and saying that, yes, you should end on a good note, but beyond that, you need to be ending further ahead than you did yesterday. You need to be making progress every single time you work your horse. And I'm not gonna lie, that sounds very, very intimidating and almost impossible to me right now, because Diesel and I have not been making progress. Especially here over the winter, we have been very much in a rut. I have been very much in a rut of doing the same work session with him every single day. Okay, we'll yield your hindquarters, we'll yield your forequarters, we'll do some backing up, a little bit of lunging to get some movement in there, like literally the same things every single day. I'm sure Diesel's like, okay, lady, I have mastered this skill. Can we please move on? And that is 100% why, if I look at in the however 3 years or whatever that I've owned Diesel, we have made little to no progress. And I am embarrassed about that, but it is 100% on me, because I am not demanding that we make some sort of progress every single day. I need to be way more intentional about where did we end off last year, and what do I need, or not last year, last session, and what do I need to do today to be a little bit better? What does a little bit better look like today? If I'm serious about making progress, whether that be with groundwork or with riding, once spring is here and I'm able to consistently ride, like either way, what does a little bit better look like? And again, that seems like so much, but that is 100% why we have not made progress. And if I'm wanting to make progress, that is what is required. Like, you guys, this, I literally think I am going to print this out and put it in my barn, because this is something that I want to live by. If I want to make progress, this is what I need to do. It's not any deeper than that. His next golden rule was never go on to the next exercise until you have fully mastered the current one. And then he goes on to say, there is a reason they occur in a particular order. Foundation training is like creating a building. You must first lay down specific elements that provide the stability, direction, and structural integrity you need. And whether you love him or hate him, I think this is where Clinton Anderson really excelled in the videos that he put together years and years ago. I have a full collection of his DVDs, and I absolutely loved them for the sole reason that they were very much, okay, we are starting at the very bottom, teach this, these are the steps. If you have trouble, this is how you fix it. Once you have this, we're going to move on to this exercise. It was very, very structured and very clear on the progression your horse would make through his program. And it was very clear that you need to master A before you can go on to XYZ, right? It's very, very important with horses. You cannot teach your horse how to pick up a correct lead and then the next day expect him to do a flying lead change. That is not how that works. There is very much a building of that foundational knowledge and skills when it comes to horse training, and I think a lot of people miss that. Myself in particular, I miss that. And if we're looking at, say, flying lead changes in particular, I've tried to teach Diesel those. We've gotten one here or there, but it's been very spotty. We do not have a flying lead change consistently, and it's because there's this middle ground where, yes, I can pick up a lead consistently, we can counter, we can do a bit of lateral work, but there's this middle where this stuff is not solid enough for me to now be trying to mess around with flying lead changes. Again, this is very, very important when you're training a horse, and it doesn't even have to apply to something as complicated as a flying lead change. We can look at something as lunging your horse, ask your horse to back up. Like, there is a progression to teaching these things. You can't just willy-nilly decide, I want to teach my horse how to pee off in hand, and off to the races you go. Unfortunately, it is not that easy, and I think that's a mistake that a lot of people make. They take for granted how much is involved with training a horse. They think they can just figure that out, and I would say a lot of online trainers are to blame for that, into making people believe that they can train their own horses. It's not that simple. It is not that simple. That is why there are a ton of horses that have been very poorly trained, and there are very few who are at the top excelling and doing amazing, amazing things. His next rule is to always make time with your horse fun. I don't know how many times throughout the course of having my YouTube channel I have had to tell myself horses are supposed to be fun. Horses are supposed to be fun. I'm not actively even competing right now, and I'm still having to remind myself, like, this is my hobby. They are supposed to be fun. No one is going to die if things don't work out. My livelihood does not depend on it. My paycheck does not come from horses. This is supposed to be fun. And yes, I do want to put pressure on myself to try and make a little bit of progress every day. But I also need to keep it in perspective. Horses are my hobby. You're supposed to be fun. No horse enjoys being around a person who is super stressed out and anxious and who has an agenda of things they need to get done. A horse will not work properly for you if that's the kind of energy you are bringing to the arena. Trust me from experience, it just does not work. The last golden rule, and I love that this is the way we're going to end off, is dream big when it comes to what you can accomplish with your horse and your life. I think it can be very easy to get discouraged. I would say I'm definitely in a slump of discouragement with my horses right now. Obviously, winter does not help, but it's not an excuse. And I need to remember that if I'm really willing to put in the work, I can do some pretty cool things with my horses. You know, it might mean that I need to seek the help from professionals, quite possibly, but I am capable of doing this if I set my mind to it, if I come up with a solid program that I'm going to go through. There are big things that I can achieve with my horse, and thinking about that gets me excited. Like, if I think about, like, so Diesel will be 6 this year. Let's see, in 4 years, how much progress could I make with him by the time he is 10? That is super, super exciting. Like, there's so much that I can teach him and that we can experience together. It's all really exciting, and I need to keep that in perspective, especially as I try to start making progress every single day. I need to keep it in perspective of, yeah, 1, it's going to be fun, but also, like, 2, this work that I'm putting in is going to be so worth it to see the horse that I can have 1, 2, 5, 10 years down the road. That's super, super exciting, and that's what keeps me motivated every single day to go out to the barn and spend time with my horses. And be sure to follow me everywhere at Strong in the Saddle. And until next time, remember, it's always a good day to ride.